I want you to give the warmest hand for the one and only Julien S. Bourrelle!
When I was 20 years old, I could only speak French, and I had never been outside Canada. For the 10 years to follow, I had the opportunity to live in 5 different countries, and in each of these countries, I made a conscious effort to try and observe how people behaved, what sorts of norms they were following, what sorts of rituals they were having, and then adapting my own behaviors to the culture of these 5 countries. I moved to Norway, I moved to the Nordics in 2009 to take my doctoral degree, and I thought it was going to be easy. Coming from Canada, we share a lot of realities, I thought. But moving to the Nordics has been by far the most challenging cultural experience of my life. And this here will be the background for today's lecture. We're going to talk about culture, we're going to talk about the Scandinavian or Nordic cultures, and we're going to reflect about how we're being perceived by our fellow Nordic cultures and also from outside the Nordics. A couple of years ago, I was in the northeast of Spain. I brought a very good friend of mine there. He's from Finland. And I brought him to a small town just outside Barcelona, which is called San Sadurní. And this is where they make the Spanish sparkling wine, the cava. Yeah? And we took a guided tour. And at the middle of the guided tour, we had this Spanish guide. And she was explaining with all the passion of a Spanish girl how the wine was made. And suddenly, she stopped. She took a step aside. And then she grabbed my Finnish friend. And she shook him. And then she looked at me and said, "Why is he not interested into what I'm saying?" But the thing is, my Finnish friend, he was very interested into what she was saying, but he was dedicating all of his mental energy to understand this fast-moving Spanish girl. And so he looked something like this. He did not have the emotional feedback she was expecting. And this is very interesting because what she was doing is interpreting the emotional feedback of my friend based on what it meant in her culture. And this is what we all do. We interpret the behaviors of others based on what it means for ourselves. What I try to do is to increase the awareness of culture so we become better at interpreting the behaviors of others, not based on what it means for ourselves, but based on what it means in the culture of the person who are doing these behaviors. Another way of saying this: the lens through which your brain sees the world shapes your reality. If you can change the lens, not only can you change the way you perceive other people's behaviors, but you can allow yourself to experience the world based on completely different cultural premises. To finish my little story in Spain with my Finnish friend, a couple of minutes later, it was time to taste the wine, and then it changed completely for him. And now this is interesting, yeah? Because it is a caricature that we may have in Scandinavia looking towards Finland, that we have less emotion in Finland. But when you come outside of the Nordics, that picture here is what most of the world see us, Swedes, Danes, Norwegians. We have a tendency to have much less expressions than most cultures around the world.